Welcome gallery staff and councillors to the Richmond Valley Council November Ordinary Council meeting. I'll open the meeting with the acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Bundjalung Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continuing culture, connections to lands, their living culture, and their unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Mr. General Manager, could you read the prayer, please?
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our Richmond Valley community, to use our resources wisely and well, and to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Thank you. Public access. There is no public access requests. And apologies, I have a couple of apologies from Councillor Patrick Deegan and Director Angela Jones, and Councillor Humphries was here earlier, but she just had a phone call and hopefully she will be able to attend, but she had to rush away for a while. Maybe she can get back. So I need a mover for those apologies, please. Councillor Morrissey, seconder. Councillor Cornish. Put that, all those in favour? Carried. There is no mayoral minute, but councillors, I would like to take this opportunity, however, to mention the service of the long-time council employee, Rosalind Townsend. Rosalind has clocked up 50 years of service to the former Casino Municipal Council and Richmond Valley Council. Very unusual to have a 50-year employee in our midst. Rosalind completed school in 1972, and whilst completing a secretarial course at Casino Technical College in 1973, applied for a stenographer's typist role with Casino Municipal Council. Rosalind commenced with council on the 12th of November 1973. During her local government career, Rosalind has been in various secretarial roles, working her way up the executive assistant to the general manager and mayor. She spent many years in this role preparing business papers, attending council meetings and minute-taking, among a myriad of other tasks to each general manager and the mayor's office. Rosalind's long history with council has seen many changes, and she has always adapted to the new innovations and continued to upskill and increase her knowledge for the changing times to deliver her high level of service to council and community. In her time at council, Rosalind has worked with 5 town clerks or GMs and 8 mayors. Rosalind, we thank you for your diligence in displaying our values and behaviours in your daily contribution to this organisation, a great commitment of your life to serve our council and community in a rewarding career in local government. Unfortunately, Rosalind was unable to be present this evening. However, the General Manager and I made a small presentation in appreciation of her services this afternoon to her. And once again, Rosalind, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and thank you for your contribution to our community and council. I failed to mention that when I took the apologies that we're joined tonight by Manager Andy Edwards, who is sitting in for Director Jones. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you.
Confirmation of the minutes. We're now on page 6. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. My apologies. We now go to the auditor's report presentation. I'll get the General Manager to do that, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. As you're all aware, that the audited financial statements were adopted at the October meeting, and at that point resolved to present the audited financial statements and auditor's report at this meeting. And so tonight we have Council's external auditor, which is the Audit Office of New South Wales, and their representative, which is our local firm, Thomas, Noble and Russell. And so we have Adam Bradfield, who's a partner with TNR, as they're affectionately known, here this evening to provide a presentation of the auditor's reports on our 2022-23 financial statements. Thanks for joining us this evening, Adam, and over to you to for your presentation. Thanks.
Welcome, Adam. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors and the management team for having us along this evening to discuss the financial report audit for the year ending 2023. So we're the auditors for all the councils from Tweed down to the Kempsey region, west to Kyogle and inland there. So we understand the needs of the region and the communities, particularly in the last couple of years, with natural disasters being a key theme across the regions, the impact of resources and those impacting service and capital works programs in particular have been some of the challenges. Just touching on, I guess, the Auditor General's role. The Auditor General is the auditor of the financial report. They also perform performance audits across a number of sectors, not just the local government. So just a couple of key themes arising from their reports during the year. It's been a focus on good advice, integrity of systems and good governance. So what does that look like? It's evidence-based and it's balanced, it's objective, it's impartial, and considers the needs of all relevant stakeholders, fiscally responsible, particularly in the environment within which the public sector operates, looking at advice ahead of key decisions and particularly in relation to infrastructure and other reforms, not being biased or predetermined based on outcomes, and having a look at how it impacts decision making in the community in different aspects. I guess in the governance space, looking at the accuracy and completeness of records, particularly recording key decisions and the assumptions made by various agencies and how that's documented in the back end. Looking at risk management processes and procedures and the identification of those, managing conflicts of interest and how agencies do that, application and documentation of relevant authorisations and delegations controls is something that's been a focus. IT and effective controls in relation to cybersecurity and IT general controls. I know your organisation continues to do work in that space along with many others, and looking at recommendations from key service providers, recommendations from performance audits and taking those on board and implementing those. So I thought that was relevant to talk about some key themes for the year. The annual work program for the Audit Office. So in relation to performance audits for next financial year, there'll be the report on local government for the financial audit for the results for the year ending 2023, and that will be released to Parliament in the new year, the new calendar year. There's also a report scheduled for the cybersecurity and local government, road asset management, coastal management reforms, and park and pay. Moving forward beyond that, looking at climate risk to assets and services, and that's certainly a very topical conversation in a number of avenues. Western Sydney Aerotropolis, probably not a lot of benefit to Richmond Valley Council, but worth considering any key broader recommendations in any event. Performance management and monitoring, audit of governance issues within particular councils and amalgamation of councils. So in our role, we certainly recommend to the management team and through Councillors ARIC to consider those reports and any key recommendations, and a bit of a self-assessment on, what's some low-hanging fruit or some good big picture thematic schemes that could apply to your local government area. So if councillors are interested in those reports, they're on the Audit Office website. there's been a change to the Audit Officer's mandate where the Audit Office can look at non-public sector entities, and in particular the follow the dollar powers and understanding where public monies have been spent, and has the power to investigate those for the benefit of the state. So and extending the Auditor General's role to confidential information, just for your knowledge. The report on the conduct of the audit. Under legislation, the Auditor General is required to issue a report on the conduct of the audit. The audited financial statements for both general purpose and special purpose, we've issued an unmodified audit opinion, an unqualified audit opinion, and that's quite a pleasing result. Not all councils are receiving that across the state, so you might be hearing within the sector things like issues around RFS assets and recognition and receiving qualifications, matters in relation to infrastructure assets and things like that. So you haven't got any issues in that regard that are topical in the sector at the moment. The Council's ARIC, so the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, was formally up and running for the full year this year. Last year it was just sort of to the back end of the audit process. So I'd just like to thank that committee, in particular the chair, Mr. Ron Gillard, for their involvement in the audit process. We present our audit strategy, we talk about the key risks, we report back on those as part of the process. The numbers and the financial report generate quite a robust discussion in a proactive and collaborative manner, and I think that is reflective of a good process as part of the audit. A couple of high-level snapshots. Rates and charges revenue increased by 5.3%. The large increase in revenue is in the grants and contributions area, which should be consistent with the discussions that you've been having at council meetings, particularly in relation to natural disaster funding and other capital grants that you've been receiving. The operating result for the year increased by $24.3 million. So your operating performance ratio was 4.94%, which is greater than zero, the benchmark provided by the Office of Local Government. The OLG have they have financial performance ratios that are disclosed in the financial statements. Your council met 5 out of the 6 of those performance indicators, performance ratios. The one that wasn't met was the own source operating ratio. So that the OLG recommends a ratio of 60%. Yours was lower than that, I think roughly 44%, but it's reflective of the increased grants and contributions that you received during the year. So it's a bit of a catch-22 in that regard. Over to the I guess the cash position. You can see that total cash equivalents and investments has increased by approximately $12 million. There's been an increase in unexpended grants by $4.1 million. You can see there that external restrictions and internal restrictions has also increased during the year. That's all that I was proposing to cover as part of the presentation. Another pleasing result. I'd like to thank the General Manager and his team for providing the relevant information required as part of the audit process. We did have a management letter that will go through the ARIC to provide some value-added recommendations as part of the audit process. And we try and add some value, not just perform a statutory role. So thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Is there any questions from councillors? Adam, I've got a couple from our report, and they relate to council on 2 occasions not reaching the benchmarks in the key performance indicators. One is the infrastructure backlog ratio, and the other one's the own source operating revenue ratio. I know they're both flood related, for the amount of money we've received there, but when that money is expended, and I'm not asking you to look into a crystal ball, I suppose, but do you think in another couple of years we will reach those benchmarks?
Good questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd encourage Council, as part of your long-term financial plan, to map that out and have conversations as part of forecasting those ratios and some of the drivers behind that, to understand what are the key leverages that councillors can consider as part of your decision-making process, and then that should give you the answer.
I noticed on the own source operating revenue ratio in 2021, we actually reached that benchmark.
Yeah.
But then when the floods hit, we've dropped below in 2.
The grants, yeah.
And the other one in 2021, the infrastructure backlog, we were very, very close to achieving that. So, but they just went with the flood, the amount of money. So,
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. General Manager?
No, I was just going to say thanks to Adam and the team, and obviously thanks to our team who put a lot of work into getting the financial statements completed and accurate and on time, which is, it's a job well done. Thanks. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Adam. I believe we are on page 6, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 17th of October 2023. Could I get a mover, please? Councillor Hayes, and a seconder. Councillor McGillen. Is everyone okay with the accuracy of that? We'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7, matters arising out of the minutes on page 7. Any matters arising?
Mr. Mayor.
No?
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Morrissey.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question in relation to the statement of ethical obligations. That's a new thing in the business paper?
It is. It's a requirement of the Code of Meeting Practice to have that in our business paper, so it's been included. It's just there as a reminder of the obligations that US councillors have, but also us as staff of council.
Good to see. Thank you.
Any other questions? Item 8, declaration of interest. Mr. General Manager, have you any declarations of interest?
Yes, I have received one from Councillor Hayes. It's for the matter 15.1, which is a modification of approved overheight raising of a dwelling, and that's a pecuniary interest other, and I understand Councillor Hayes will leave the meeting for that item. That's the only one I've received.
Is there any other? Thank you. Petitions nil, notice of motions nil. We are now page 8, and I'll move my mayoral attendance report. Could I get a seconder, please?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. Any questions? No, I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Delegates' reports. There is one delegate report, and it's the recommendation is on page 9. I'll move that. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Morrissey. Any questions out of that report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
Councillor Morrissey.
Page 11 in the business paper.
Page 11?
Yeah, in the business paper. In relation to the information reports, the 6th dot point at the bottom of the page, wheel account. Can you tell me what that is, please?
Maybe that should be weed account.
Thank you.
I think
Just checking.
I'll check that for you.
Just checking.
While I'm on that, I'd just like to mention that a month or so ago we were looking that we may have had water restrictions coming in before Christmas when council moved that, Rouse moved to go to 70% of storage. I can just give you an update there that the Wilson source that was really damaged in the floods is now temporarily up and running, so we're using that at Rouse. Rocky Creek Dam is back to 84% in storage, and Immigrant Creek Dam is spilling. So there's, and also here Jaber Weir is spilling, and there's a better flow in the river. So I would not see by Christmas where there would be water restrictions happening. So that's good news. I'd say if we keep getting rain over the summer months, which we usually do, we'll be pretty fine. Any other questions? Put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Matters for determination. Has any councillors like to call an item?
15.1, Mr Mayor.
Any other councillors? Councillors, I'll call 14.1, 14.2, 14.3 and 17.1. So, any other? Mr General Manager, I believe we need a motion then for 16.1, 17.2, 17.3.
Correct, yep.
Could I get a mover of that, please?
Move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey.
Second.
Councillor Cornish seconding. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. We now go over to page 14, General Manager's report, annual report, and I'll move that. Get a seconder, please.
Second.
Councillor Hayes. Have you got a video on this?
Yep.
I believe we have a video. The General Manager's good to play. I can organise that, please.
Yeah, so we've obviously annual report's an important document. So, given our in-house expertise with Adam, we've put together a video just of highlights based around the content of our 2022-23 year. So we're going to show that. Goes for about 5 minutes, but it does highlight many of the very good things that, as a council, we achieved through 22-23. G'day, Vaughan McDonald here, General Manager, Richmond Valley Council, here to give you an overview of Richmond Valley Council's annual report for 2022-23. It's been a challenging year as we've focused on recovery from the 2022 floods, which damaged over $150 million of infrastructure. Our aim has been to get our lives back to normal as quickly as we can, while also planning to rebuild our other infrastructure for the longer term, which is going to take us a good 2 or 3 years. We've also continued to support people across our communities to recover and rebuild. We've done that through advocacy and discussions with other government agencies to ensure that as much of the funding that we can get for our people in our community to rebuild gets to those right places, while doing that and supporting people to recover. We've also been finishing projects like the Rapville Hall, the courtyard of the Casino Library, and continuing to finish off the Woodburn to Corroquai Road upgrade. The other good thing as we've come out of COVID has been the return of festivals and events to our valley. Events like the Evans Head Fishing Classic, the Evans Head Rodeo, farmers markets across the valley, the Woodburn Orchid Show, and having Christmas tree light-ups in all our towns and villages, and of course continuing to support major events like Primex, Beef Week, and the hugely successful Casino Truck Show. Our focus with our Rebuilding the Richmond Valley delivery program, which has 11 objectives and 88 principal activities, is to keep all of that on track. 9 are completed, 75 on schedule, 3 are behind schedule, and 1 hasn't progressed. So overall, we're getting on with the job and progressing things well. Our financial performance is really strong, with revenues now at $125 million on the back of natural disaster recovery funding. That's a big increase in income, which obviously assists our economic stimulus. Our expenses are now at $81 million. And so we've got those additional funds of around $44 million in reserve to continue with our capital and infrastructure recovery works And while we're doing this, our performance indicators are really positive across all areas, including achieving a surplus with our operating performance result. There's no doubt that the grant funding and support from the Australian and New South Wales governments has been critical for us to support the rebuild and has also influenced some of these indicators, highlighting the importance of Richmond Valley Council having a positive relationship with both governments. Another example of financial assistance we provide to our communities is the $80,000 that's gone to 25 community groups across our valley, enabling them to improve their facilities and programs, securing funding of up to $5,000 each. Our Richmond Valley Council team is our most valuable resource, and I'd like to thank all of our staff. Up to 300 staff that work for the Richmond Valley Council across the valley each and every day. But I'd also like to thank all of the contractors and other stakeholders and businesses that support us to get the job done. Turning to 2023-24, our focus will continue to be on rebuilding our infrastructure, getting jobs done like the Norton's Gap landslip and the Bentley Road rockfall. We'll also be making sure our water and sewer assets are restored and more resilient. We'll continue to support and advocate for our community who are recovering from flood, and our future planning will continue. We're looking forward to having the Regional Jobs Precinct work put out for public consultation, and we're also commencing developing place plans for our communities of Broadwater, Woodburn, Evans Head and Corrokai, and also finishing major projects like the Casino Showground and Racecourse, the Northern Rivers Rail Trail, and building infrastructure like Willicks Bridge, the Tatham Bridges, and getting a solution to the Broadwater Bridge. We are planning, designing, constructing and chasing funding every day of the week. And all of that is about making sure that our community's infrastructure is in as good a shape as we can get it. A lot of this work is also about securing economic stimulus projects and also looking to the future, aiming to secure new residential and industrial subdivisions. There is still plenty to do, but 2022-23, with all the challenges that have been thrown our way, has still been a very successful year for Richmond Valley Council. I encourage you to read our annual report in detail, and we look forward to continuing the work that we do for our community over the coming year.
Quick question, Mr. General Manager. That video will go out online, will it, to the...
Yeah, it will. We put that out through our YouTube channel and on Facebook to give our community the opportunity to see what we've been up to.
Yep. But look, I think the video actually says it all, what we've been through and how we're recovering. It's been difficult for many councils in New South Wales, and I think we're up there with the best of them. We're getting the jobs done and moving on, and we've got a plan forward, and I'm looking forward to those place plans for the Lower Richmond coming out so we can get on with getting some funding for those communities down there too. But I'd just like to congratulate the staff, Mr. General Manager, and everyone involved, and as you said, contractors, it just hasn't been council, and also the community for working along with council and achieving those positive outcomes. Any other councillor? No. Did you want to mention anything?
Oh no, I think yeah, I'd just like to thank Adam for his creativity and helping me look half good, although the facial hair wasn't very attractive. But all for a good cause, Movember. But no, thank you, and thanks to our staff, very committed and loyal team. But also thanks to councillors for your leadership and the direction that you give us and the support and decision making. So thank you.
Any other speakers? And I think one of the highlights of it was when you mentioned that there's 11 objectives, 88 principal activities, of which 9 are completed, 75 on schedule, 3 behind schedule, and 1 not progressed as yet. So I think that's a very good outcome, and with our financial statements that was just presented a while ago, I think it's very positive for our council. Well done, everyone. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. 14.2 on page 17. I'll move that. Seconder, Councillor Cornish. I notice this is going out on to the community for 21 days, and I look forward to feedback, and I'd recommend that our community take the time to read this. On page 18 of the report, it indicates the numbers of residents in the Richmond Valley who identify as having a significant disability, and those receiving NDI support. Council utilises these statistics as a starting point for consultation and action planning for a range of services and facilities. I actually do the White Cane Day, and it does change your way of thinking when you've got a vision impaired set of goggles on you and you're walking down with a cane, and the tactile crossings, they're fantastic how they can assist people with visually impaired to cross a very busy road. So yeah, those figures, I think they feed in, and the numbers there just tell me that we need to be very aware of the needs of disability people, and I'm very proud of this Disability Inclusion Action Plan, and I'm very pleased that we are delivering these services to our disability people in our community. Did anybody want to make a comment? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. 14.3 on page 21. I'll move this, and I need a seconder, please. Councillor Hayes. As we all know, that risk is a major issue in the workplace, and it's a very important issue. And from what I repeat, this report reads, is it's going to be more tightly regulated going forward. And I'll most probably ask the General Manager who attended this conference to give us a verbal update, if you'd like, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think the thing that comes out of this, is a statistic that New South Wales has the highest rate of workplace deaths in Australia. So we are behind others, and that's more than 50 people losing their life, on a job each year. So obviously there's a focus from government to reduce that, and the commitment of this program came from an accident in Western New South Wales, where a worker was killed on a road job, and so the outcome of that has been that Transport for New South Wales and Safe Work New South Wales have agreed to what's called an enforceable undertaking, where Transport for New South Wales have had to implement this program. And the program has been about raising awareness, improving systems, educating people to reduce the risks of accidents on road jobs in particular. As you all know, that council does road jobs for Transport for New South Wales, only on our highways, and so we need to meet their requirements. And so look, it was all regional councils were invited, and the invite was very clear to me that there was an expectation for general managers and directors to be there. I think it was in the mid-60s, the number of councils that were represented, and I'd suggest there was probably a dozen or so general managers. So, I was pleased that I went. It's certainly, heightened, my obviously commitment and awareness of some of the things that we need to be considering, and And so the outcome was what's called the Statement of Common Commitment, and so that's a commitment between Transport New South Wales and councils, and I think most councils that were there signed that before the end of the summit. So it was a good day and a half. It was fairly emotional at times, with hearing about incidents and also hearing from a couple of people whose lives have been changed through, in one case, a serious accident at a workplace, and in the other case, the loss of her 17-year-old son in a workplace accident. So hearing from people like that and what that has meant to them, just sort of it hits home, the importance of safety in the workplace. So look, absolutely worth attending, and I think it also was acknowledged by the Minister that to our local member that it was good to see the General Manager of Richmond Valley Council at the summit. So there's with these sorts of things, it is important to lead from the front, leading by examples, one of our behaviours, and I suppose going to this was another commitment of mine to doing that. So well worth the effort, and plenty of lessons and other things that I've already been talking with our people about, and what they need to be doing more regularly with our teams who are out and about every day in high-risk situations.
I have a question. Page 20 of the recommendation, number 3, endorses statement of common commitment to take reasonable steps to provide a healthy and a safe workplace for all workers, contractors, suppliers and visitors involved in council's work sites and facilities. How does council control external people referred to here?
Oh, look, there's a range of ways that we do that. Well, obviously we do use a lot of external contractors and suppliers. We have visitors to our sites. So there's a range of ways we do that, whether that be through tenders, requirements within tenders for things like quality assurance systems, safety systems, and other workplace information that gives us the confidence that they know what they need to do. And then following that, you obviously need to monitor. You need to be involved in briefings of their staff, having inductions, attending toolbox talks. So there's a range of things, whether they be contractors. Obviously, where we hire, say, a traffic control crews. So there's specific requirements that they need to meet when they're working with us. Where we have facilities, people requiring them to sign in, a lot of it comes down to awareness, education, and ultimately enforcement. And sometimes that enforcement can mean you don't come onto a site, or you get barred from a site. So those sorts of things are there, and it's our leaders of jobs, the people on the ground, who need to be taking safety seriously, and where a non-RVC workers not operating safely, the key message is you've got to do something about it. The behaviour you walk past is the behaviour you accept, and we need to not accept poor safety behaviour.
Thank you. Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, I've just got a question statement for the GM if he wants to have a go at it. With our work health and safety makeup when we're doing a tender or a lease, okay, it makes up 10% of the score. Usually, is that normal to be 10% of the score on everything that we do? And to get that 10%, they've got to have a current safety management plan in place, I believe. And how far back do we go to research their workplace health and safety records for people that are coming on to take up tenders and to take up leases within the council as a business? And where's the responsibility lie if that fails?
I'll start at the end. Where does that responsibility lie if it fails? Ultimately, if it's on a council job facility, it rests with me. I'm the person conducting business or undertaking. And so if there's safety issues, it ends up, my accountability, responsibility. Obviously, the way I manage that is through the systems and the staff and resources that we have in place to minimise the risk. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. And so when we have, tenders, the requirement of say 10%, I think, those requirements do vary depending on the nature of whatever the activity is. But obviously, similar to when, with tenders and, similar to recruitment, referee checks, looking at the history of an organisation, how long have they been doing it? Do they actually have a safety management system that has been tested? An organisation might have a safety management system that looks good on paper, but what's their track record? Have they implemented that? So there's a range of processes that we would go through, but experience, commitment, and quality assurance. There's a number of quality assurance programs that are in different areas of businesses, and so if you have an accreditation, that can add strength to what you do. So there's certainly a range of ways. Those, back to the sort of initial part of the question, the percentages, they can vary. Depends on the risk of the activity and what else is important when it comes to determining who is successful, in a tender.
Any other speakers? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. 15.1 on page 23, Councillor Morrissey. Oh, Councillor Hayes. I think the door's unlocked. Councillor Morrissey.
I'll move the recommendation as it is, Mr Mayor.
Seconder?
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Councillor Morrissey.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there was a application for public access this afternoon in relation to this item. Did the gentleman have anything written down, or was he opposing it, or?
Mr General Manager.
No, I understand it's his property is in full support of obviously getting it approved so he can get on with the job. I understand this has been brought to a council meeting previously, but he has made the decision to increase the floor level by a metre, which has necessitated that having to come back to council. So you have seen this one previously. It's just going to be a metre higher. It's not near neighbouring properties and other things, hence obviously our professional staff's recommendation.
Nothing more, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish, I have a question. If a resident wants to raise their property like this has, to get right out of flood height, are we going to try to alter our DCP so they don't have to keep coming to council, or have we got any plans to go ahead with that, or looking at legally raising that so that they don't, you understand, for future planning?
It's a good question. I suppose at the moment we're waiting on some decisions and outcomes from the New South Wales government, and they're reviewing obviously the impacts of the flood and what that does mean for floor levels. So we sort of need to wait for that. But obviously, if these sorts of floor height raisings do breach that maximum height limit, it may be something that we need to consider. But we are, we're obviously conscious that bringing matters to council does add time, but our team are very conscious of trying to minimise that wherever we can by predicting that this is necessary and getting it into the system as quickly as we can. But I think, good point. Maybe something to consider when we next review our LEP or DCP.
Thank you. Other speakers? Councillor Morrissey?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Councillor Cornish, can you greet, please? Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Hayes, sorry. We're now on page 30, item 17.1, financial statements. I'll move that. Seconder,
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. Councillors, it's good once again to have an unmodified audit from our auditors, and I might just ask General Manager to comment on those two questions that I asked the auditor. He said that we need to do a plan going forward to be able to achieve that, but as I pointed out, that they're flood related, and we were there with our own source operating revenue ratios before the flood, and the other infrastructure backlog ratio was very close. So have you got any comment you could give me, please?
I'll look with the own source revenue. Really simply, our own source revenue didn't change much. In fact, I think it generally may have increased a bit. But the pool of funds, when you grant funding to fix all your natural disasters and other, so the pool increases by so much. Obviously, the proportion that's own source drops back, and so that's why it's dropped back significantly to the 45.2. So that's, in some ways, as Adam said earlier, it's a result of the impacts of the flood, and I suppose our success in securing funding under the natural disaster recovery provisions from the Australian and New South Wales governments to rebuild our area. So that's on that one. The other one, which is the infrastructure backlog ratio, where in 2021 we were almost at benchmark, 2.33. Flood hit, obviously damaged our assets. So this ratio is all about the backlog of your infrastructure. How much do you need to bring it back to a good condition? So it obviously deteriorated significantly after the flood, which is why it dropped to 6.01. And the good news is, obviously, with the work that we've done over the last, or over that 12-month period, it's improved the condition of those assets back. So the ratio is now 3.86. So it's heading back in the right direction. And given the work that we will have ahead of us over the next couple of years, we are quietly confident that it'll keep heading in that direction. Probably won't get there by the end of this financial year, but I think by the end of the following, it'd be nice if that was back, if not too, very close to it.
There's a lot of money to be expended in the future over the next 12 months or 9 months. That infrastructure backlog ratio, if you look down to the asset maintenance ratio, it's very healthy. Do they kind of complement, will that complement it, Mr General Manager or Mr Gator? Just having that money there available for the future?
I'll let Director Gate have a go.
Thanks for that, Mr Mayor. They do. The asset maintenance ratio is more about how much we spend on maintaining our assets, not building new ones. But obviously the backlog one, that's more to do with when we spend the grant funding on fixing our assets that we've got. But the asset maintenance is more maintaining, not actually doing the fixing. That's more renewal.
So when they're renewed in the infrastructure backlog ratio, having that asset maintenance ratio healthy will help to maintain them over the future.
Correct. Well, once they're renewed, you don't have to spend as much on asset maintenance. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No, just congratulate everyone involved in this. I think it's, as I said, it's a unmodified audit, and to get that, I think a lot of councils aspire to have that, and well done to everyone involved, and you could pass that on, please, Mr General Manager, to the finance team and everyone else, please.
Yeah, I can do that, and I think just reflecting on, the Auditor mentioned the Rural Fire Service asset recognition issue that's bubbling around in local government at the moment, which, from what he said, sounds like some councils are ending up with unmodified audits. We've been doing that, recognising those assets for a couple of decades, I think, isn't it? So it's not an issue that we've been highly exercised by. There is validity to the argument that, you know, they are a state government asset, so they should be on the state government books, but we dealt with it some time ago, and we don't think it has a significant or material impact. And in fact, you know, we have a really good relationship with our emergency services, so we don't want anything to impact on that, obviously, given what they've done for us over the last few years.
Well, just a quick question. On page 42, the September quarter review, there's still 71 million, is that how I read it, up the top, to be on the works program?
Yeah, so our original budget was, in this review, it takes, puts another 20 million into our capital works program up to 71.7 million.
So over on page 44, that's 71,731,000 shows up there, and I know that's a lot of money to be spent in 9 months, but it does say this will be closely monitored and to ensure all projects can be delivered. Is there a possibility that we can spend that money? That's a lot of
Yeah, look,
money.
at the moment, we're sitting at about, as at the end of September, we were sitting at 20% of the 50 million. Now we're sitting at around 35% of the 50 million. So we've spent about 18 million.
Okay.
We're going to have to obviously continue to monitor this as like we did last year, because the amount of money and grant funding that we're getting in, it won't all be able to be spent this year. It'll be a mighty effort to do that. But, you know, we'll, in future budget reviews, we'll probably have to adjust that figure back and look at timing, because you obviously got, you know, not just the labour issues, you've also got supply issues as well. So look at what our timeline for those new grant fundings that we've got in, look at the timelines for when we'll be able to complete them.
And you can't say we don't want the grant funding, so it's just got to be carried over. Yeah, so you need that work done.
Yeah,
It's a
100%.
bit later date. And there's no council, I think, that has got the staff capabilities to be spending all this recovery money, because a lot of councils are still struggling getting staff everywhere. You hear that all the time. It was even at the convention the other week that people are just leaving one council and going to the other, and then they can't fill their gap, and yeah. All right, no other speakers. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Item 18, on page 45, for general business, there's nil. Item 19, on page 46, matters for information. Could I get a mover, please?
I'll move.
Second, Councillor McGillen. Councillor Hayes moving. Any questions? Items, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, not 19.5, our letter writing. Where is it at? 63. There's a summary there of the letters we've written to the different organisations and that about the flood and the what do we go to? The Reconstruction Authority expressing concerns and potential impacts of large-scale housing buybacks, etc., and the other letters that we sent earlier in the year. Just note there that it says in there that the first letter regarding the local flood recovery priorities was in a response to a resolution at Council in July. It was actually in June. It was in the June ordinary meeting. And it followed through. The letter was sent out on dated the 4th of July. So I'm just wondering where we go with this. Like, we're not getting any responses. Well, there's 4 letters there. We haven't had a response to either of them. How do we pursue a response to get some kind of a result out of where we're up to? Is it local members? Do we go further, or are we just wasting our time?
That would be the only option, I think, go to your local member, because I suppose you could write another letter.
And we've been doing that. We've been onto our local member asking for follow-up, so I'm sure, Richie Williamson in particular is doing that. So yeah, we can catch up with him on whether he's had any success. But it's generally the main thing, other than an opportunity if we have a chance to bump into a minister along the way. Next time one's in the region, we can raise that as well.
Any other items, councillors?
Sorry, just to add that with regard to the concerns, I suppose, about Woodburn in particular, we, and I think it's in this report, that we are working with the Reconstruction Authority on, and they've 50-50 funded the place plans project. So they're going to be place plans and adaptation plans, so which was, they were going to do adaptation plans. They weren't quite sure what they were going to look like. So we've taken the opportunity to work with them and in some ways pilot, a combined place and adaptation plan across our mid-Richmond communities. So there's a project that's in its inception. Inception meetings have been happening. Background work's already started. And there'll be significant consultation with the community throughout that project. The aim being that it is finalised by, off the top of my head, around June next year, as in the final plans. But obviously a lot of work to happen prior to that to get us to that point. But I think, so there is some, there's some positive signs there in working with Reconstruction Authority, and we'll just pursue every angle we can.
No other councillors? Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Page 75, questions on notice, nil. Is there any question? 21, is there any questions in writing for the next meeting? Nil. Over the page now to page 70. Matter is referred to closed council. Could I get a mover to go into closed council, please?
Move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey.
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Mr General Manager, has been any written representations made regarding this meeting going into closed council?
No, nothing received.
The gallery is empty, so it's no need to ask. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Mr General Manager, could you read the resolutions, or have the Director read the resolutions of closed council, please?
Yeah, I'll let Director Zeller do the first one, and I assume Director Gator the second couple.
Director Zeller.
In the item 22.1, industrial land development update, resolve that 1, noting the considerations set out in the report and subject to the satisfactory negotiation and agreement of the funding and planning matters raised, Council reaffirms its resolution approving the purchase of land suitable for development into an industrial subdivision in Precinct 3 of the Regional Jobs Precinct. And 2, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement, including the direct negotiation for sale of a developed lot in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of Council where necessary. 3, Council authorises the General Manager to explore existing and future funding pathways to activate and develop an industrial subdivision as set out in this report, located in Precinct 3 of the Regional Jobs Precinct.
In item 22.2, open panel source tender, supply and delivery of concrete pipes, regional procurement 222324. It was resolved that 1, Council awards the contract for the supply and delivery of concrete pipes to Wholesome Australia, trading as Humes, on an ongoing basis until 30th of September 2025, noting that provision has been allowed for a 12-month extension to the contract to 30 September 2026, subject to satisfactory supply performance. And 2, authorise the General Manager to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of Council where necessary. In item 22.3, open panel source tender, supply and delivery of passenger truck and earth moving tyres, regional procurement 342324. Resolved that Council, number 1, awards the contract for supply and delivery of passenger and truck earth moving tyres to Lismore Tyre and Mechanical / Tyre Power for a period of 36 months from 1st of January 2024 to 31st of December 2026, noting that provision has been allowed for a 12-month extension to 31st December 2027, subject to satisfactory supply performance. And number 2, authorise the General Manager to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and to affix the seal of Council where necessary.
Thank you. I think that concludes the meeting. I'll declare it closed, and thank you to everyone for out there viewing, and everyone have a safe trip home. Thank you very much.